Adam and Charlie sat back down at the table to eat their cereal. It took Adam until he'd finished the bowl to realize why the dining room chair felt so uncomfortable. It wasn't the chair, he'd been sitting on the items in his back pockets. He'd forgotten all about the phone and keys he'd stolen from Holly's handbag. An idea sprang to the front of Adam's mind. I need to tell Samuel. Charlie looked at him like he was insane. I'm sorry, what? It's important. Would he be back at the police station by now, do you think? Asked Adam. Charlie shrugged. I don't care where he is, as long as he's nowhere near me. Adam let out a frustrated groan. You're no help. Leaving his empty bowl on the table, Adam went in search of Deborah. He found her in what appeared to be her study, arranging files on her computer. She looked over at him when he walked in. Hi, Adam, she winced, afraid she'd said the wrong name again. Yeah, Adam, is there any way I could contact Samuel? It's important. Deborah's eyebrows shot up in surprise. Of all my years running this place, you're the first child to ask that question. I have his mobile number, if you want to call him. What is it about? Finding my kidnappers. I think I have something that could help. Deborah nodded thoughtfully as she reached under her desk, searching through her handbag for her phone. She found it and scrolled through her contacts until she reached Samuel's number. Here you are, dear. Deborah passed the phone to Adam, who thanked her and hit call. Adam bounced on the balls of his feet impatiently until the ringing stopped. Hello, Deborah. Is something wrong? Asked Samuel. It's Adam, actually, and no, nothing's wrong, Adam replied. Samuel let out a faint hum of surprise, but didn't interrupt as Adam continued. I just remembered I have Holly's phone and house keys with me. I accidentally stole them when I ran away. Good, Samuel said slowly. That's very good. I can use those, especially the phone. Why don't I come back now and pick 'em up? Sounds good, Adam replied, then as an afterthought, asked for Deborah's approval. That's fine, she replied, and Adam flashed a grateful smile at her. Okay, I'm on my way, said Samuel, and hung up. Adam handed the phone back to Deborah, who put it back in her bag. You're a very interesting boy, Adam, said Deborah. Why? I've only known you for how long? An hour or two, and you've done the opposite of everything I've come to expect of new arrivals. Adam nodded without truly understanding. Do you get many new arrivals? No, not anymore. I take that as a good sign, to be honest. Oh, Deborah interrupted her own train of thought. I haven't finished your tour yet, have I? She stood up and motioned for him to follow her out of the study. As he did so, he said, Charlie's already given me a tour of the kitchen. Deborah smiled. That was kind of him. She led Adam through the rest of the house. It was too harshly lit and smelled too sweet from the air freshener, but Adam didn't mind, at least it was a different building to the one he'd spent his whole life imprisoned in. By the time the tour was finished, Samuel had arrived. As Deborah opened the door for him, the young boy who was walking down the stairs beside it froze, squeaked, and dashed back up, out of sight. Moments later, Adam heard a door close sharply. What a warm welcome these children give me, Samuel said sarcastically. Sorry, Samuel. Mitchell has been a little jumpy lately, Deborah apologized on the boy's behalf. Come in. Sit down. Deborah led Samuel and Adam to the lounge room for the second time that morning. This time, one of the couches was occupied by one of the twins. She glanced at them, rolling her eyes at Samuel before turning the TV off and leaving the room. Teen angst, Samuel suggested. Something like that, Deborah replied, embarrassed, and sat down. Adam and Samuel followed suit. So, Adam, where is this phone you spoke of? Asked Samuel. Here. Adam stood up again, pulled Holly's phone and keys from his pocket and handed them to Samuel before sitting back down. Will you be able to use them to find my kidnappers? I'm sure I will, said Samuel. Thank you very much for giving them to me. He pocketed the items. I'll keep you updated as much as I can. Thanks, said Adam. Oh, one more thing, said Samuel as he stood up. Do you know the phone's passcode? Yeah, Adam replied, and told him the numbers. Thank you, said Samuel. I'll be off now. Let me show you out, Deborah offered politely, rising to her feet. She led Samuel to the front door, keeping a close eye out for any misbehaving children along the way, but word of Samuel's arrival must have spread because she didn't so much as catch a glimpse of any of them. As Samuel climbed into his car and drove away, Deborah smiled brightly and waved. But once he was out of sight, the smile slipped from her face and she sighed. I'll have to give those kids another talking to about manners. The corners of Adam's mouth turned down a little guiltily. He was the one who'd invited Samuel back, after all. But how was he to know the man was so hated by so many? Later that morning, when Deborah gathered the children around the large dining table for their daily lessons, she did exactly as she said she would. The children in her care groaned when the lecture began, but she ignored them. I saw two of you behave very rudely towards our guest this morning, said Deborah, eyeing the children in question. I expected better of you. Particularly you, Alyssa. You're old enough to know better. Sorry, Deb, but it was a nasty surprise to have him just walk in like that, said the twin named Alyssa. A little warning would have been nice. Yeah, piped up another girl. She looked older than Adam, but younger than the twins. Why did no one tell us he'd be coming twice in one day? What did he come back for, anyway? Did he forget to spit on the doormat? Riley Brooks. Deborah snapped. It seems you require a personal lecture about manners after lessons. When everyone else leaves, you will stay with me. The girl, Riley, rolled her eyes and sighed. The young boy who'd run back up the stairs earlier raised his hand and waited. Deborah's gaze softened a little when she looked at him. Yes, Mitchell. I was scared. I didn't mean to be rude, Debbie, he said. I'm sorry I didn't warn you, any of you, Deborah added, but life is full of surprises, and you all have to be ready to face them with courage and good manners. Riley snorted with laughter. Deborah looked at her sternly. Is something funny, Riley? Life is full of surprises, Riley mimicked in a ridiculous voice. Life is like a box of chocolates. Life is what you make of it. Deborah's stern glare turned icy. Stand up, please, Riley. The girl grumbled but did as she was told. Deborah scooted her chair to one side and gestured to the carpet beside it. You can sit on the floor for the rest of today's lessons, right here next to me. Riley groaned and stomped over to where Deborah was indicating, carrying with her an e-reader, notebook and pen. She dropped herself down heavily and sat with her legs crossed. Anyone wish to join her? Deborah asked the rest of the children. They all shook their heads. Good. Have I made myself clear about the quality of the manners I expect from you? What does that mean? Asked Mitchell. Sorry, dear. I meant, are you going to have good manners from now on? Oh, yes, Mitchell replied, nodding his head. The others nodded with him. Good. Now, shall we begin our lessons? Asked Deborah. Mitchell raised his hand. When Deborah called on him, he said, I forgot my books. Well, run and get them, then, said Deborah, and he did. The sound of his tiny footsteps pounding up the stairs reached their ears and Deborah sighed. I didn't mean literally. Adam raised his hand. Before Deborah called on him, he said, I don't have any books. Oh, of course you don't. Sorry, Adam. Hang on, I'll get you some. Ashley, keep an eye on Riley, please. Make sure she doesn't move. The twin who wasn't Alyssa nodded. Sure. As soon as Deborah left the dining room, passing a panting Mitchell on his way back in, Riley started flailing her arms around. Mitchell saw her and laughed as he returned to his seat, placing his own e-reader, notebook and pencil on the table before him. Look, Ash, I'm moving. What you gonna do about it? Riley taunted. Ha, ha, Ashley said sarcastically. You're hilarious. Riley sniggered and put her arms down as Deborah returned and gave Adam the same school supplies everyone else had. The e-reader was larger than Adam's, but it had the same paper-like screen. It also came with a stylus clipped to one side. Have you used one of these before? Deborah asked Adam. I've read e-books before, said Adam. This is a bit different to a normal e-reader. It lets you write notes in the textbooks. Charlie can show you how it works while I start the lesson. Adam looked to his right at the boy in question. He deliberately sat beside Charlie in the hope of becoming better friends with him. Charlie smiled at Adam. So far, so good. As Deborah sat back down at the head of the table, Charlie said quietly, "Step 1 is to turn it on." He pressed a button on the side and the papery screen displayed a virtual bookshelf full of textbooks on a range of topics. Charlie showed Adam how to navigate the device, along with how to highlight sections of text, and make and delete notes. And that's it, pretty much, Charlie concluded in a whisper. Do we get to keep these? Adam asked, speaking just as quietly. Only while we live here. Deborah can't afford to be giving them away for free when we leave her care. Oh, okay, I'm not going to be kicked out anytime soon, am I? Adam asked warily. I have nowhere else to go. None of us do. That's why we're here, Charlie replied. How old are you? 12. Yeah, you've got plenty of time here. The twins, though, they're already 17. They'll be leaving this year, when they turn 18. 18, isn't that too young to leave? Charlie shook his head. Not according to the law. Right, how old are you? 9. Adam's eyebrows shot up in surprise. 9, wow, I thought you were my age. Boys, Deborah cut in. Adam and Charlie looked at her. Your discussion doesn't sound relevant anymore. I'd like you to open your maths books and pay attention to me now. Okay, said Charlie. Sorry. Sorry, Adam echoed, and they both did as they were told. Orphan, child with parents. Setting the trap. We've managed to track down your kidnapper's house, but it's empty, Samuel told Adam over the phone. It had been a few days since Adam had arrived at the orphanage, but it was the first time Samuel had made contact. We've put together a larger team and expanded our search. By the looks of the house, it was definitely set up to keep you contained. With the evidence here along with the testimony you've given us, we should have a strong enough case to press charges when we find them. Adam beamed. That's brilliant. If there's anything else I can help with, just tell me. Thanks. I will, said Samuel. Without so much as a goodbye, he hung up. Adam handed the phone back to Deborah, thanked her, and left her study to find his friends. Their lessons were over for the day, but instead of soccer, today they'd decided to play board games in the lounge room. The board in question was nothing more than an image displayed on the TV, the movement of the pieces directed by the console controller they passed between them. Where have you been? Charlie asked him. Deborah wanted to talk to me, Adam replied as he sat on the floor beside Charlie. Seeing as all the children had had such bad reactions to Samuel the last time he'd shown up, Adam thought it best not to mention that he was still voluntarily speaking to the man. What are we playing? You're not playing anything yet, Riley said rudely, but we're playing Money Grows. That sounds fun. Can I join you? Adam asked politely. The game's already started, Riley refused him. Oh, come on, said Charlie. We've barely done one round. We can restart with 5 players, can't we? Riley looked at Adam, who smiled and asked, please. Fine. Riley agreed, and exited their current game. Thanks, said Adam. Riley didn't reply, she just opened up a new game for 5 players. Okay, Adam, you're player 5. Everyone else is the same as before. The board reappeared on the top half of the screen. Below it were the players' in-game bank accounts and a space to list their investments, when they bought some. It was a familiar layout to Adam, almost identical to the version on his tablet back home, but when he'd played it in the past, half the time it had been against AI, not real people. Halfway through the game, however, Deborah appeared in the doorway. Adam, can I talk to you for a moment? Now, Adam asked, but I just bought my first hotel. It's important, she said meaningfully. Adam sighed and turned to Charlie. Can you play for me until I get back? Sure, said Charlie, but just so you know, I'll probably lose all your money by accident. How'd you get so much so quickly? Adam shrugged and stood up. I used to play this game all the time. Leaving his friends in the lounge room, Adam followed Deborah back to her study, where she handed him the phone. Samuel called again, she said. Adam nodded and held the phone to his ear. Hello. I was thinking about your offer to help, said Samuel. I'd like to take you up on it. Okay, what do you need me to do? Adam asked. How good are you at lying? Okay, I guess. Why? The phone you gave me, one of the contacts was labeled Aaron, Samuel explained. If we call that number, assuming they haven't abandoned that phone, we'll have one chance to convince your kidnappers that you haven't gone to the police. I'll need you to call them and arrange a meeting. You'll have to make them believe you're sorry you ran away and that you want to go home. Then, when they come to meet with you, I'll be there with my team to arrest them. Could you do that? When Adam didn't respond, Samuel added, I've already spoken to Deborah about this. She knows we'll keep you safe, but she said the final decision should be up to you. Adam shook himself out of his stunned silence to stutter, I'll do it. Good, I'll come by now and pick you up. Now, isn't it getting a bit late? No, it makes more sense if you call in the evening, said Samuel. Confidence often fades after dark, and you've been away for days. It would make sense that you'd be sick of sleeping on the street by now. But I haven't been. They don't know that. Oh, right. I'll come and pick you up, Samuel repeated. We'll discuss the details in person. Make sure you're wearing the clothes you ran away in. Meet me at the end of the driveway, Adam said before Samuel could hang up. There's no need for you to come inside. Understood, said Samuel, and ended the call. Adam handed the phone back to Deborah. Can you please not tell anyone about this? Okay, I won't, Deborah promised, and put the phone away. Good luck. Adam thanked her and snuck up to his room to get changed before heading outside, making sure his friends didn't see him go. The afternoon sun hung low in the sky. Adam stood among the long shadows of the trees, his stomach churning with nerves, the cold breeze raising the hair on his arms. When the sleek black car pulled up in front of him, he climbed into the front passenger's seat and pulled the door shut behind him, grateful for the pleasant warmth of the car's heater. We're going to the police station first to talk you through the details of the plan, said Samuel as he pulled onto the road. Then we'll go to the meeting point. Where's that? Asked Adam. We'll discuss all the details at the police station, Samuel repeated. Sorry, I was just curious. Samuel didn't respond, he just drove. The sun was bleeding out on the horizon when Adam held the phone shakily up to his ear. It rang for so long, Adam thought no one would answer, but then. Adam, is that you? The sound of Aaron's voice set Adam's nerves on edge, but he forced himself to sound relieved as he replied, Yes, it's me. Oh, thank goodness. Hold on. Aaron's voice sounded distant as he called, Holly. It's Adam. Adam heard Holly's voice but couldn't make out the words of her reply. A moment later, however, her voice came through loud and clear. Adam, where are you? We've been worried sick. If you've been so worried, why didn't you ask the police to help find me? Adam thought bitterly, but knew he wasn't allowed to say things like that right now. I don't know, exactly. I'm where all the plants are. Can you come pick me up? I don't want to spend another night out here, Adam begged. It made him feel sick to his stomach. I tried going home, but I couldn't find it. I've been lost for days. Adam's voice cracked with the desperation he forced into it. You must be at the botanical gardens, Aaron concluded, judging by Adam's mention of so many plants. Hold on, we'll be right there. Wait, said Holly. You haven't gone to the police, have you, Adam? No, I thought about it, but I was too scared to talk to anyone, Adam lied. Good. Stay put, Adam. We're coming, Holly promised. The call ended. Adam's heartbeat pounded in his throat. Trembling uncontrollably, he collapsed onto a nearby bench, phone clasped in his lap. He nodded to where he knew Samuel was hiding in the garden across from him. The kidnappers were on their way. Orphan, child with parents. Betrayal. Adam, thank goodness you're all right, Holly exclaimed, enveloping him in a hug the moment she and Aaron reached him. Aaron wrapped his arms around them both. The three of them stood there for a moment, as if it was a happy family reunion. Adam felt suffocated. Holly Jeffrey, Aaron Jeffrey, you're under arrest for kidnapping. The hugs broke apart and Adam could breathe again. Aaron and Holly stared at Samuel in shock. They hadn't heard him approach. Holly shuffled her feet as if she was about to run, but when she noticed she was surrounded by more police officers, she stayed put. Instead, she just linked her fingers through Aaron's and said, "We're not kidnappers." Samuel motioned for the two officers beside him to cuff the kidnappers' hands behind their backs before replying, "You'd say that whether it was true or not. Why should I believe you?" Holly glared at him but couldn't refute his logic, so she stayed silent as the chill of the metal cuffs bit her wrists. "How did you find us?" asked Aaron as he was cuffed too. Then he realized that his words could be taken the wrong way, so he added, "That's not an admission of guilt, by the way. I'm just curious." Samuel smirked. "Ask Adam." Holly and Aaron's gaze burned into Adam, their eyes brimming with the pain of broken trust. Guilt flooded the boy and he stared at the concrete path beneath his feet. They deserved it, he reminded himself sternly, but a small part of him still refused to believe it. He ignored that small part. "You lied to us?" Holly asked, her voice thin. "How else was I supposed to bring you both to justice?" Adam spat. "Adam, watch your attitude." Aaron chastised him. "Where are you getting those ideas from?" "What, ideas of justice? Fairness? Obviously not from you, you evil, lying." "Please, calm down," one of the officers interrupted, resting a hand gently on Adam's shoulder. Adam looked up at his touch, recognizing him as one of the security guards at the police station. He shook the guard's hand off angrily, taking a threatening step towards his kidnappers. "Let the boy vent, Marcus," said Samuel, who had seemed to be somewhat enjoying the show. At that, the fire burning so fiercely in Adam's chest just a moment ago died down a little. What was the point of being angry if it was allowed? Rebellious anger was so much more satisfying than permissible anger. After a moment of silence, Adam shook his head and took a step back, mumbling about having nothing more to say. He turned away from the people he'd once considered his parents as the officers who held them led them to the waiting car. "I never want to see them again," Adam growled to no one. Samuel overheard him. "You won't have to, Adam, don't worry. I'll make sure of it," he promised darkly. A cruel smile tugged at Adam's lips. Where did you go last night? Charlie asked Adam over his late breakfast the next day. Adam had arrived home so late, Deborah had allowed him to sleep in. I was looking for you everywhere, but I couldn't find you. I thought you might have run away or something. I did, but then I came back, said Adam. It wasn't quite a lie, but it wasn't the whole truth, either. What? Why? Was it something Debbie said? Where did you go? Adam held up his hands to halt the flow of questions tumbling from Charlie's mouth. No, it wasn't Deborah's fault. I'm just not used to being around lots of people. I was feeling overwhelmed, so I went and hid in the trees to be alone. I'm sorry I scared you, Charlie. Charlie accepted Adam's rehearsed response without further questions. Oh, okay, that's all right. Not that you were feeling overwhelmed, he hastened to add, just that you're back now and you're okay. You are okay, right? Adam nodded brightly. Better than ever. Charlie smiled and said no more. Adam couldn't think of anything else to say either, so he took another bite of his toast, allowing the silence between them to grow. Finally, Charlie asked, why aren't you used to being around people? Didn't you transfer here from another children's home? Adam swallowed his mouthful then replied, no. Why? Charlie frowned. Really? I thought you did. What made you think that? It's just, I don't mean to be rude, but aren't you a bit old to just be turning up now? Charlie said hesitantly. Old? Adam echoed indignantly. I'm 12. I'm not old. As far as I know, everyone else arrived here before they turned 6. Adam raised his eyebrows. Really? Yeah, I was 5 when I was brought here. Mitchell was the youngest, he was 2. Adam was speechless for a moment. When he found his voice again, he asked, why were you all so young? Charlie shrugged. Why weren't you? I don't know. Adam took another bite and chewed slowly, thinking. He swallowed before asking, where did you used to live? With my parents, Charlie replied. Then he frowned, trying to see through the fog of his 5-year-old memory. At least, I think they were my parents. If they were, why were you taken from them? Adam challenged. Maybe they weren't good parents. Maybe they weren't your parents at all. Silence followed Adam's statement. The corners of Charlie's mouth turned down as he processed what Adam had said. What do you mean? Adam leaned closer, his voice so low Charlie could barely hear him. Maybe you were kidnapped. Immediately, Charlie leaned back in his chair as though physically repulsed by the idea. No way. Think about it, Adam insisted. They take you away when you're too young to remember your real parents and raise you as their own, but then the police catch up to them and take you away to somewhere safe and they get arrested. If they were your real parents, why would the police do anything? Charlie shook his head slowly, his face paler than it was a moment ago. No, no way, you're wrong. How could I be wrong? It's what happened to me. How do you know? I just do. And Samuel said he'd worked on other cases just like it the first time I spoke to him. Maybe you were one of those cases. You're trusting Samuel, Charlie cried. He's the one who took me away. He took all of us away, as far as I know. My point. You all were the cases he was working on. No, I mean, yes, but, he told me. Spit it out. Charlie took a deep breath to calm himself, then said clearly, I remember him telling me I was an orphan. He was bragging about it as he drove me here the day he took me away. He picked me up from my first day of school. My teacher said I had to go with him because he was police, and he said I'd never see my parents again. He didn't mention anything about kidnappers. That doesn't make sense. If you were, an orphan, of course you won't see your parents again. They're dead. What? Asked Charlie, confused. What? Said Adam. Why would my parents be dead if I'm an orphan? What? That's what the word means. Charlie shook his head. No, It means a child with parents. Real parents, not adopted ones. What? Who told you that? Debbie did. It was part of our lessons. She said she wasn't supposed to teach us that word, but she thought it was important for us to know. The color drained from Adam's face. What are you talking about? Why wasn't she supposed to tell you? Charlie shrugged. I don't know. Ask her. Abandoning his half-eaten toast, Adam leapt from his chair and ran to Deborah's study. Charlie scrambled from his own chair and chased after him. When they reached the room, Adam flung open the door. The room was empty. Maybe she's watching TV, Charlie suggested, looking over Adam's shoulder to see into the study. Leaving the door open, Adam raced to the lounge room, Charlie hot on his heels. The only person in the room was one of the twins. Alyssa, have you seen Debbie? Charlie asked. She's outside, gardening, Alyssa replied. Thanks, said Charlie, then turned to follow Adam, who'd already started running for the front door. Adam burst outside and looked around. No Deborah. He sprinted down the front steps, around the side of the building to the backyard. Deborah was kneeling beside the building's foundations, pulling up weeds. Deborah, Adam panted. She looked up, startled by his intensity. Are you all right, Adam? Why aren't you supposed to teach the meaning of the word, orphan, and why did you do it anyway? The corners of her mouth turned down and she looked away. It's considered a sensitive word by the Education Board. But it's a word I think all children here need to know. Why? Why is it so important for us? Adam demanded. She didn't respond. Deborah, please. I need to know. Her silence stretched into another agonizingly long moment. Adam was about to speak again when Deborah choked out, because it's what you were before you arrived. All of you. Adam inhaled sharply. Even me. Yes, Deborah whispered hoarsely. So, I've just turned my real parents in to the police, not my kidnappers. Deborah nodded guiltily, her gaze glued to the ground. And you knew, and you didn't tell me. Adam's voice was growing louder with rage. Samuel thought it was best. You're trusting Samuel too, Charlie exclaimed, horrified. I know he may seem scary to you kids, but he's a kind man. I need to tell him I've made a mistake. Adam interrupted Deborah. Can you drive me to the police station? He asked her, please. Like he'd listen, Charlie muttered. Deborah shook her head. The drive's too long. I can't leave the children. Then I'll get there on my own, Adam said over his shoulder as he strode away. Charlie, tell Alyssa and Ashley that they're in charge for a while, Deborah said as she rose and gave chase. Okay, said Charlie. Deborah barely heard him. Adam, wait, she called. Adam sped up, but seeing as Deborah's legs were longer than his, she managed to catch up anyway. Recognizing defeat, Adam slowed to a brisk walk, allowing her to walk alongside him. You won't stop me, Adam said without looking at her. I know, I can see that, Deborah replied. That's why I'm offering to drive you after all. You'll be safer that way. Adam slowed his pace further, surprised. Oh, thank you. Orphan, child with parents. Too late. When they reached the police station, it turned out that Samuel wasn't there. He was at Griffith Council Square. Adam marched out of the station before he could be asked why he wanted to speak to the man. It would have just wasted time, Adam explained as he and Deborah climbed back into the car. As they approached the square, they saw an unusual setup. Adam couldn't quite tell from his distance, but he thought it looked kind of like the gallows he'd seen in old movies. That can't be right, he thought, but he couldn't think of anything else it could be. Deborah turned a corner that took him away from the square. What are you doing? We need to go that way. Adam pointed frantically behind them, but Deborah took no notice. That's not something you want to see, Deborah said solemnly. I didn't think they were still doing it that way. And so soon, too. What's it? Deborah, what are they doing? Adam demanded, panic bubbling in his chest. They weren't gallows. They can't be gallows. Deborah kept her gloomy eyes on the road and didn't respond. They must be gallows. Adam's panic boiled over and he unbuckled his seatbelt. Deborah gasped and shifted her foot to the brake, slowing the car gently so as not to throw Adam from his seat. Adam, don't, she yelled. But he didn't listen. He shoved the door open and stared at the tarmac flowing below him like a black river. Deborah shrieked and reached out to take hold of his arm, but he jumped before she could grab him. Adam cried out as his shoulder hit the rough ground. His momentum sent him tumbling. All he registered was pain and a dizzying blur of motion until he was brought to a jarring halt by the gutter on the side of the road. Dazed, all Adam wanted to do was lie where he'd fallen and recover from his bumpy ride, but then the image of the gallows flashed across his mind's eye and he sprang stiffly to his feet, sprinting back the way they'd come. As he reached the intersection, the square came into view. From what he could make out, there were people standing on the platform now, 2 of which had a rope around their necks. "Mum!" Adam screamed. "Dad!" He darted out onto the main road without looking and immediately, a chorus of car horns blared in his ears. He winced and kept running, dodging the first lane of traffic but stepping directly in front of a car coming the opposite way. It was going too fast and he was too close for it to be able to brake in time, so in a desperate attempt to avoid it, Adam leapt into the air. The car's bonnet caught him and sent him rolling along it, up the windscreen, across the roof and off the other end. The tarmac tore at his skin as he landed. He felt the sting of the pain and the warmth of his blood. As chaos erupted around him, Adam slipped into a quiet world of darkness.